Nigel Farage blames admin error for candidates praising Hitler. Hungary chooses Make Europe Great Again slogan for its EU presidency.
In the UK, Labour suspends candidate after he reportedly...
Nigel Farage blames admin error for candidates praising Hitler. Hungary chooses Make Europe Great Again slogan for its EU presidency.
In the UK, Labour suspends candidate after he reportedly shared pro-Russia posts. Macron defends surprise snap election call as most responsible solution, and Macron says a silent majority in France oppose the extremes. Brazil's Lula would seek re-election at 80 to block the fascist. Senate GOP blocks Democratic effort to ban bump stocks after Supreme Court ruling. Research finds pattern of YouTube recommending right-leaning Christian videos. Anti-woke water becomes a hit for conservatives who brag about the unapologetic drink.
Kim greets Putin with a hug for first North Korea trip in 24 years, as three Russian Il-96 fly President Vladimir Putin on first visit to North Korea in 24 years. Russia sends about 40 warships to Pacific Ocean ahead of Putin's visit to North Korea. Putin says Russia and North Korea will help each other if attacked, taking ties to a new level. In North Korea's Kim sees relations with Russia entering golden age.
Biden enlists Bill and Hillary Clinton to counter Trump's fundraising, and Biden again calls Trump a convicted felon at a fundraiser, pushing his 5 days total to around $40. Secret Service agent robbed at gunpoint during Biden's Los Angeles trip, police say. Lawyers, judges, technology. Roger Stone touts plan for Trump win in secret recording. Lebanese officials work to maintain friendly relations with Cyprus following Hezbollah threats. Brussels refuses to host Belgium and Israel match over security fears. U.S. concerned Israel's Iron Dome could be overwhelmed in war with Hezbollah, officials say.
Australia seeks defense chiefs dialogue with China to reduce military incidents. Only pirates do this. Philippines accuses China of using bladed weapons in major South China Sea escalation. Japan has no right to meddle in China and Philippines' maritime issues, says Chinese embassy in Japan.
Doctrine, and Putin says Russia may deliver weapons to North Korea. Finland joins NATO treaty on sharing nuclear information. Romania to send Patriot system to Ukraine as Russia pounds its power grid. Putin warns South Korea, sending weapons to Ukraine would be a big mistake. South Korea mulls supplying arms to Ukraine after Russia, North Korea signs strategic pact, and South Korea imposes more sanctions against Russia, as reported. U.S. says Ukraine can hit inside Russia anywhere its forces attack across the border. South Korea fires warning shots after third border breach by North's troops.
CNN confirms that only Joe Biden and Donald Trump will be in debate, not Robert Kennedy Jr. Trump rages about trash Fox News survey showing Biden winning. EU agrees new sanctions on Russia, targeting LNG for the first time. New EU sanctions package will target Russia's energy exports, announced von der Leyen, as Russia exported 4 to 6 billion cubic meters of LNG via EU ports to third countries in 2023, announced by the European Commission. Japan imposes sanctions on 11 Russian individuals, 42 companies, as Japan imposes trade curbs on China-based firms for supporting Russia's war in Ukraine.
Haaretz comments as, how much more proof does Biden need that Netanyahu is not a U.S. ally? U.S. officials estimate that as few as 50 hostages are still alive, reported by Wall Street Journal. Fending off Houthis requires double the fleet, EU force says.
Assassination. Farage said Andrew Tate was important voice for men in podcast interview. And The Guardian comments as, hip-hop mimes and breast jokes win Farage a valuable Gen Z following. In the UK, unusual burst of bets preceded Rishi Sunak's election announcement.
China says Dalai Lama must thoroughly correct his political views. U.S. lawmakers meeting Modi after Dalai Lama signals New Delhi shift on China, claimed by analysts. Malaysia reaffirms One China policy, rejects Taiwan independence.
Steve Bannon's bid to delay 4 months prison sentence, rejected by appeals court. FBI raids several California homes, including Oakland mayor's. In the U.S., Mexico-based drug cartel leaders of La Nueva Familia Michoacana drug cartel, indicted and sanctioned.
In the U.S., Graham Blumenthal unveiled bill declaring Russia a state sponsor of terror. Russia accuses France of fomenting war in the Caucasus with arms sale. Putin and North Korea's Kim take turns to drive each other in Russian-made limousine, and North Korea's Kim gives pair of dogs to Putin.
Trump outraises Biden in May as billionaires start giving big. Melinda French Gates endorses Joe Biden for president. Winklevoss twins say they each gave $1 million to Trump presidential campaign. In the U.S., court upholds Affordable Care Act's free preventive services mandate and Obamacare preventive care mandate to stay in place after court ruling. California Democrats agree to delay health care worker minimum wage increase to help balance budget. DeSantis signs bill making it legal to kill crack bears in self-defense. Human shielding in action. Israeli forces strap Palestinian man to jeep. Gaza. Bombs near the Red Cross. 22 dead. Widely reported 50 Nova suicide story. Not correct, says Israeli psychologist.
Reform UK's Nigel Farage blames NATO and EU for provoking Ukraine war. Russia tells US that, we need to talk, but Ukraine must be on agenda. The US will close Russian visa centers in New York and Washington, and diplomats will be forced to pay taxes.
Reopening Brexit debate would bring turmoil, says Keir Starmer, and Sunak claims Starmer could put Brexit in peril, as Labour warned voters against election complacency. It had been commented as neo-Nazi advance in Brazil worries and comes under international monitoring.
Donald Trump tells U.S. evangelical Christians to vote for him one more time. Biden will soon embroil U.S. in World War III, says Trump, and Trump vows to settle conflict in Ukraine before his inauguration. Trump's new promises: immunity for cops, an Iron Dome, cheaper bacon, and Donald Trump proposes Migrant Fight League during Bonkers rally speech.
Macron courts coalition of rivals to block extremes from power. Hungary's anti-migrant Orbán says Germany no longer smells same. AfD apparently plans to form a new European Parliament group, the Sovereignists. 2 days ago, China warns of possible trade war, with EU as Germany's Habeck heads to Beijing and China. European Union agreed to hold talks on EV tariffs. Germany's Vice-Chancellor, Habeck blames China's Russia support for worsening Berlin and Beijing relations. Chinese e-commerce sales up 14% during 618 shopping festival. Report says, Reuters reported, more worries for China. Sales at big e-commerce festival drop for first time.
China says U.S. tip led to suspect in prime example of cooperation amid fentanyl crisis. 2 months ago, House panel says China subsidizes fentanyl production to fuel crisis in the U.S. In the U.S., MS-13 members and associates sentenced for racketeering and narcotics conspiracies and 4 murders. USA federal indictment alleges alliance between Sinaloa cartel and money launderers linked to Chinese underground banking.
White House cancels meeting, scolds Netanyahu in protest over video, as Biden administration strongly denies Netanyahu's claim U.S. is blocking arms shipments. Netanyahu blasts Biden admin for withholding weapons from Israel in harshest criticism yet. Inconceivable. And Netanyahu tells U.S. to give us the tools and we'll finish the job.
Australia quietly expelled 4 Indian spies who targeted politicians and defense tech, claimed in a report. Iowa's Political Football says UK woman branded a Chinese spy. Biden can't ignore India murder plot in U.S. Top Democrat says, recently in Pannon murder plot, U.S. Democratic senators urge Biden to take strong diplomatic action against India.
China to see biggest millionaire exodus in 2024 as many head to U.S. Hong Kong visitors to EU will need travel authorization from next year. Anti-Asian rhetoric during COVID-19 pandemic negatively impacted employment and earnings, new Northeastern research finds.
U.S. asks Vietnam to support Ukraine's sovereignty, territorial integrity. Putin wants Russia, Vietnam to work more closely in space sphere. Thailand did not sign communique at Swiss conference due to Russia's absence, announced Ministry of Foreign Affairs. Armenia recognizes Palestinian statehood, says Armenian Foreign Ministry. Japanese Emperor Naruhito finally begins delayed UK state visit. In Brazil, an error in measurement more than 100 years ago will make Parana lose territory to Santa Catarina.
Vietnam says it's ready to hold talks with Philippines on overlapping continental shelf claims. India boosts defense ties with Bangladesh as it tries to become a counterweight to China. UN confirms Doha talks with Taliban will exclude Afghan rights defenders.
Dutchman Rutte to be NATO's new Secretary-General. Dutch news outlet Numbers reports citing sources, as Dutch leader Mark Rutte clears a big hurdle to becoming NATO chief after Hungary lifts objections. Von der Leyen, Costa, Kallas likely to get top EU posts, Polish PM says. Chinese MFA slams NATO as Cold War relic amid warnings on Russia aid. Israel warns of prospect of all-out war after Hezbollah publishes video of military, civilian sites, and Israel approves operational plan for Lebanon offensive, says army. Islamists used Ukraine as transit on way to EU, claims German authorities. Cargo ship MV Tutor sinks in Red Sea days after Houthi drone boat attack. India refuses to endorse Ukraine meet statement. Kiev better accept Russia's peace proposal or face worse outcomes, says Medvedev. Hanoi residents praise idol Putin, Russia's world leader, as he visits Vietnam.
Ukraine will get former French Mirage 2000-5 fighters. Ukraine will never join NATO, says Russian Deputy Foreign Minister Ryabkov, and Hungary expects talks on Ukraine's admission to EU to begin in June, says Minister.
US renews warning it's obligated to defend the Philippines after its clash with China, as Philippine officials say Chinese forces seized 2 Navy boats in disputed shoal, injuring sailors. Malaysia wants to join BRICS. China's she an outstanding leader, says Anwar. NATO chief says West should impose a cost on China for its support of Russia.
Record 23 countries hit 2% defense spending target, NATO says. Military spending on personnel in Brazil is, proportionally, more than triple that of the USA. Paris court overturns France's arms show ban on Israeli firms.
Astronauts return delayed again, as Boeing and NASA try to learn more about spacecraft issues. Boeing CEO admits company has retaliated against whistleblowers during Senate hearing, says I know it happens, and Boeing hid faulty parts that may have been installed on new 737 planes, whistleblower alleges.
DJI drone ban passes in U.S. House. Countering CCP Drones Act would ban all DJI sales in U.S. if passed in Senate. U.S. pushing Netherlands, Japan to restrict more chip-making equipment to China, source says. U.S. Steel CEO is extremely confident Nippon deal will close in 2024. Warren Buffett's Berkshire Hathaway dumps BYD shares following rise in trade tension over Chinese EVs. EV startup Fisker files for bankruptcy, aims to sell assets. Detroit 3 automakers should exit China, leading analyst says.
Increased spending pushes 2024 U.S. budget deficit estimate to $1.9 trillion. Study finds U.S. does not have housing shortage, but shortage of affordable housing. U.S. retail sales barely increase in sign of consumer strain.
U.S. sues Photoshop maker Adobe for hiding fees, making it difficult to cancel. Los Angeles School District bans use of cell phones, social media by students. For CSA regulation, EU Council about to vote on voluntary chat control as a new legislation to fight child sexual abuse online. Ford admits it lost billions on sedans, but may return with an EV. Jeep confirms new Compass, updated Grand Cherokee and Wagoneer. Secret Cadillac coupe finally revealed after 6 long years. Kansas accuses Pfizer of misleading public about COVID vaccine in lawsuit. License of Saskatchewan doctor who prescribed ivermectin for COVID-19 to be suspended. Brazil has an average of 30 deaths from COVID daily in 2024.
New York's top court declines to hear Trump's appeal of the gag order in his hush money case. Vietnam ministry weighs cash bounties to catch corrupt officials. In Canada, McGill withdraws amnesty offer, toughens tone with pro-Palestinian protesters. Trump's all-tariff proposal would increase middle-class taxes by up to $8,500 a year, claimed in an analysis. China may overhaul consumer taxes as plenum looms, Goldman says. UK inflation falls back to official 2% target as food prices rise at slowest rate since 2021.
1 in 20 Donald Trump voters are switching to Joe Biden this election, as per a poll. Tory donor who gave Boris Johnson £500,000 urges public to vote Labour. In Italy, differentiated autonomy is law, with approval from the chamber at dawn. The opposition protests, they are splitting Italy, and they launched the referendum.
Ecuador stops waiving visas for Chinese nationals because of an increase in irregular migration. In Ireland, Ryanair, working with Department of Justice to photograph passenger documents. Switzerland to represent Mexico's interests in Ecuador after severance of relations.
$1,000. Tata Motors to revive Jaguar Land Rover as Freelander as a made-in-China EV. Tesla must face owner's lawsuit claiming it monopolizes vehicle repairs and parts. Putin hints at NATO's plan for military mission in Ukraine, as Hungary to take no part in NATO mission in Ukraine, says Prime Minister. West to replace Zelensky with someone else in 2025, Putin predicts. Financial Times reported that U.S. to redirect Patriot air defense orders to Ukraine.
Internal files save Nord Stream 2. 1 year ago it had been reported that U.S. had intelligence of detailed Ukrainian plan to attack Nord Stream pipeline. Russian court seizes securities of Linda's subsidiaries, based on claim of Ruschem alliance. Rheinmetall receives order for 155mm shells, calls it largest in company history, as Bundeswehr orders €8.5 billion worth of ammunition from Rheinmetall.
Tech EDF forced to dump Apple stock by Nvidia in upcoming rebalancing. Major Chinese semiconductor company goes bankrupt. 23 others recently withdrew IPO applications, and 6 months ago it had been reported that Chinese chip-related companies shutting down with record speed 10,900, or around 30 per day, shut down in 2023.
Boeing 737 MAX crash victims' families ask the Justice Department to fine the plane maker $25 billion for committing the deadliest corporate crime in U.S. history. Reuters reports that Boeing nearing deal with supplier Spirit Aero after months of talks, sources say.
Biden bans Kaspersky, no more sales, updates in U.S. China should explain growing anomaly in trade numbers, U.S. says. U.S. puts Japan back on currency manipulator watch list after 1 year.
Germany's Habeck heads to Beijing for talks, as EV tariffs loom, and BMW cancels $2 billion battery cells contract with Northvolt. Italy issues $6.4 million fine over Chinese cars badged as Italian.
Polish policymaker eyes 2025 rate cuts, doesn't exclude hikes. Ireland now second most expensive EU country for goods and services, with prices 42% higher than average. Reportedly, in 6 months of Javier Milei in power, Argentina spends less but has more poor people.
U.S. nuclear-powered carrier arrives in South Korea ahead of trilateral drill. Marcos says Philippines won't incite wars as South China Sea tensions spike. China sent 66 warplanes into Taiwan airspace over 2 days period. Houthis, Islamic resistance in Iraq attack commercial vessels in Israel's Haifa. USS Dwight D. Eisenhower now in the Med. USS Theodore Roosevelt heads to the Middle East. African Union agrees to new force to fight Islamists in Somalia. 3 days ago, It has been reported that Somalia asks peacekeepers to slow withdrawal, fears Islamist resurgence. New York Times reported that Iran has flooded West Bank with arms for 2 years, aims to make it next flashpoint. Israel says it's assassinated key Hamas weapons supplier in Lebanon. Israeli women rushed to buy guns in October 7th aftermath.
And key business units. China to extend anti-dumping duties on styrene imported from ROK, Taiwan region, U.S. U.S. is closer to curbing investments in China's AI tech sector. In Shanghai Film Festival, Kazakh drama The Divorce takes top prize. It has been speculated as, will China's historic paper on Change 6 lunar farside samples be in English or Chinese? China and France satellite launched to monitor most powerful explosions in space.
Media report claims, official who gave Putin wrong intelligence on Ukraine war resigns. Bloomberg comments as, Russia is storing up a crime wave when its war on Ukraine ends. Poland considers complete closure of border with Belarus. Swiss push to rewire financial system in wake of banking crash. Wall Street Journal commented as, Nvidia's success is the stock market's problem. JP Morgan Chase, Bank of America and Citibank flagged for holding trillions of dollars in derivatives without proper contingency plans, claimed in a report.
IMF unveils plan for China-based regional center in Shanghai, moving closer to Asia-Pacific. IMF announced that central bank digital currencies can boost Middle East's financial inclusion, payment efficiency. Brazilian real surpasses Argentine peso, and Brazil has the worst currency among emerging markets in 2024. Kalashnikov unveils equipment developed for Legionnaire combat suit. Russian submarines damaged hull during Cuba visit raises questions. Koch and dozens of others pledged to quit Russia. They're still there.
Erdogan, Pashinyan reiterate commitment toward normalizing bilateral relations. Armenia to buy France's Caesar howitzers supplied to Kiev. System of a Down singer says he doesn't respect Imagine Dragons as human beings after Azerbaijan gig.
Little is said among bidders for Venezuela-owned Citgo's parent, and Citgo parent's share auction should be halted, Venezuelan minister says. Terrafame has on June 18, 2024, started recovering natural uranium on its industrial site in Sotkamo, Finland. Fitch predicts higher gold, copper prices this year.
Ex-Twitter rival Lens Protocol seeks $50 million in new funding. El Salvador builds Bitcoin bank to bolster foreign investment. Bitwise revises Ether ETF filing with potential $100 million Pantera investment. SEC closes investigation into Ethereum 2.0. No securities charges against ETH, says Consensus. Hedge funds front-running Ethereum ETF approvals, according to VanEck analyst. North Dakota latest U.S. state to revoke Binance U.S. license, as Binance U.S. lost money transmitter license in 7 U.S. states.
Swiss National Bank and SDX delve deeper into CBDCs, tokenized securities, as WCBDC pilot on 6 digital exchange to continue over the next 2 years. Kraken confirms return of funds from CertiK's controversial White Hat hack. Kronos, CRO, welcomes Exayan, EDF subsidiary, as new validator. Mexican cartels using BTC, ETH, USDT, other tokens to buy fentanyl ingredients announced by the USA. UK regulator FCA arrests 2 people associated with £1 billion illegal crypto business. Binance dealt another blow. India's financial watchdog imposes $2.2 million fine for anti-money laundering violations.
Reportedly, ditching paper money makes Sweden a haven for digital criminals. An Indian authority uncovers large-scale crypto and Hawala operation, arrests key player. Elon Musk's latest plan to add Venmo-like payments to X excludes crypto. China said to ask Visa, MasterCard to cut transaction fees.
Nigeria unveils new rules and compliance program for digital assets. German government moves $195 million worth of Bitcoin to exchanges. Marathon initiates pilot project using Bitcoin, Mining heat to warm Finnish residents.
Security breach compromises 1,590 wallets. 50 Cent SX hacked in latest crypto pump and dump scheme. Sean Diddy Combs deletes all Instagram posts, including Cassie apology video, amid mounting legal problems. Bitcoin hash rate may finally slow.